Grandstand Bettors here with 32 NFL previews in 32 days. We are on day number 28, and we will finish off the NFC North with the Chicago Bears today. As always, guys, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our team previews and all of our season-long NFL free picks. And go ahead and smash that like button as we are just a couple weeks away from the NFL season beginning. Now, before we get into that Bears season preview, just a reminder, you have the opportunity to take home $1,000 from us here at Grandstand Bettors. That's right, head on over to grandstandbettors.com. Get signed up for our free NFL betting contest this year. The link is below in the description. Head on over, get signed up, and while you're over there, become part of our family and start living that Grandstand life. Without further ado, though, let's get into the Chicago Bears season preview. And to do so, we do need to look back at the 2020 season. And it started off great for the Chicago Bears. They started 6-1, even beating the Bucs by 1 point in week number 5 during that stretch. Now, throughout the beginning of the season, they were going back and forth between Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles as their starting quarterbacks. But eventually, they benched Trubisky for Foles, who ended the season as their starting quarterback. Whether it was the right move, the Bears ended up finishing 2-7 and going 8-8 on the season. That ended up actually hitting their under, which must have been devastating for Bears fans who took over 8.5. After 8 weeks of the season, it looked really, really good. Now, with a solid quarterback, this team would have been dangerous last year. They had one of the best defenses in the league and a very good offense with running back David Montgomery, wide receiver Allen Robinson, and tight end Jimmy Graham. If their defense can maintain their success they had last season, all the Bears really need to do is to address their quarterback situation, and if they can get that figured out, they'll probably have a chance to make the playoffs. If we want to get into their offseason, let's talk about their quarterback situation. They let Trubisky go to the Bills, and they signed Andy Dalton. Now, it's looking like Andy Dalton will be the Week 1 starter. This move does baffle us a little, but more than likely the job was promised to him when he was signed as a free agent, so they're going to keep on his promise. But even though he had some good seasons in Cincinnati, this guy's not a top 20 quarterback in the league anymore. He proved last year when he came in for the injured Dak Prescott that he wasn't good when he threw 8 interceptions and only 14 touchdowns in 11 games played. We think his starting for the Chicago Bears is going to be very, very short tenured, and he'll be replaced by their draft pick, Justin Fields. We'll talk about him in just a minute, but the Bears in the offseason were also able to re-sign Allen Robinson after he demanded a larger contract and threatened to leave, which was huge to get him signed for keeping this offense very dangerous. They also brought in Marquise Goodwin from the Eagles in a wideout for him, and have Darnell Mooney, who had a great rookie season last year. Now, they are set at running back with David Montgomery, and their offensive line is in pretty good shape. They only had to replace Charles Leno Jr. with tackle Elijah Wilkinson from the Broncos. Defensively, all around, they were very good last season. They ranked in basically the top 10 in each category. Their front seven are led by Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks, and linebacker Roquan Smith, who had over 130 tackles last season. Now, their secondary was very sharp last year, but they did lose a few key guys like cornerbacks Kyle Fuller and Buster Skrine, and they had a couple backups like Kalen Johnson and Kendall Vildor that they're going to look to step up this season. But other than their secondary, their defense is still very strong headed into the year. There wasn't really a lot of other noticeable moves that happened in their defense in free agency, beside adding some depth to their front seven. But we like their run defense, their red zone defense to really maintain that high level of playing. But I do expect that secondary to drop a little bit. Looking at their draft picks, as we alluded to, they selected Justin Fields out of Ohio State with the 11th pick in the draft. He's looked very good so far in training camp in the preseason games and definitely has a chip on his shoulder, as we saw on draft day, that he was overlooked by the 49ers and the Jets. As we mentioned before, sooner than later, this guy's going to take the field. Dalton is not going to be in there long. and he's probably going to play pretty decent at first, although he may regret saying that the game he thought would be faster after his first preseason start. That might come back to haunt him. Some defenses might use that as some chalkboard material. Now, regardless, we think the Bears got some good value with him, and we'll just have to wait and see how it translates in years to come. With the second pick in the draft, the Bears selected offensive tackle Taven Jenkins from Oklahoma State. He had a lot of promise and is a very good run blocker, but a back injury earlier in training camp put their hopes of adding this guy to the starting lineup to an end. He had surgery a bit ago, and we will just have to wait and see if he can return this season. The Bears did not have a pick till the 5th round, and that's where they selected offensive tackle Larry Borom out of Missouri. Now, they're lucky they did because of Taven's injury, Borom is probably going to get some field time that he probably wouldn't have seen without that injury. With the rest of their picks, they got a wide receiver, a running back, 2 defensive players. Nothing else, though, worth mentioning. Let's get into the Bears' schedule. They have the 3rd hardest schedule in the NFL. Their total win over-under is set at 7.5 right now. After getting 8 wins out of last year's game, which we thought was going to be really tough to do, it's even going to be tougher with Andy Dalton and a rookie behind the center there. In the divisional games, we have them beating the Lions twice, splitting with the Vikings and Packers, although they probably could lose to the Packers twice. But in any case, more than likely 4-2 in their division. But that's where things get tough, is once they go out of their division. They play the NFC West, which we have them losing all these games. And that's probably going to be one of the best divisions in football this year, is the NFC West. And they have to play the Bucs and Giants. Realistically, they could probably beat the Giants and lose to the Bucs there, so we have them going 1-1. At this point, with about 5 games left on their schedule, we have them at 5-7, but those games left are the AFC North and the Raiders. Even if they beat the Bengals and the Raiders, that only puts them at 7 wins. So our best bet for the Chicago Bears, we're really going to take them under 7.5. With Dalton and a rookie quarterback as his backup and the 3rd hardest schedule in the league, we just can't see this team winning 8 games. Their defense is still going to be good, although we think the secondary will be lacking, and they have some good offensive weapons, but we see this as a 7-win team this year. Bears fans, what do you think your team's going to be this year? Put your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know what you think your team's going to do over under 7.5 wins this year. For those of us here at Grandstand Bettors, that does it for the Chicago Bears season preview. Tomorrow, we start our last division, the NFC West. As always, sit back, relax, enjoy the rest of the preseason games, and we'll see you tomorrow.